Chapter 450. The atmosphere of Xia City in early winter was abnormally fiery because of the university student parade. The closer one got to the municipal plaza, the higher the heat. At 10 o'clock in the morning, there were already over 20 university parades stationed in the plaza and surrounding areas. Under the illumination of the winter sun, the weather could be considered fine. The temperature was neither hot nor cold. The university students, still in their energetic phase, began to wave slogans in the municipal plaza. They chatted with the surrounding military and police, testing each other's limits. Most people knew that today's parade was just a show. Professional skills and cooperation from all sides were indispensable in order to have a happy and brilliant show. Aside from reaching a consensus on this point, everything else was like a plate of loose sand. Luonan found a leisure library on the outskirts of the municipal plaza. There was a tea house, a water bar, and a hot drinks shop inside. Most importantly, the window position near the plaza was very good. It just so happened that the municipal plaza and most of the eastern area could be seen. He casually tapped the pages of the ebook on the translucent coffee table. 99% of his energy was placed on the plaza, searching for suspicious targets according to Peony's perfect plan. Then he confirmed, perfect my ass. There were parades, spectators, passers-by, and so on around the plaza. There were only several tens of thousands of people if all of them were counted. But the stream of people shuttling back and forth had their respective life sketches interwoven together to construct a changing star atlas. It was like an ebook on the table. The words were dense and page after page flashed past. It was dizzying to read. Right now, the number of people was far from reaching its peak. After the parade and the carnival began at night, it was very likely that there would be 500,000 people. They would be like sardines squeezed into a narrow area with a radius of 5 to 6 kilometers. The range was not a problem, but the density of stars in the living starry sky of 500,000 people was something that not even the center of the Milky Way could compare to. He squeezed out all of his brain juice. Could he color the target? Too chaotic. Too chaotic. Luonan's fingers lightly tapped on the table. He changed his tempo and volume to dispel the fidgety emotions in his mind. The order of the plaza was very chaotic right now, but the hearts of people were even more chaotic. Luonan had observed the parade that Peony had teased through Ink's perspective. Several hundred people advanced passionately. Their surging emotions formed a layer of scorching incorporeal flames. They had already formed some sort of initial fusion, some sort of embryonic form of a system. They seemed to converge, but in fact they could be contrasted to highlight the minute differences and contradictions of individuals. The procession in the plaza did not have this condition at all. Luonan could only begin by searching the target itself. However, the characteristics of the first, second, and third stages of a mutated infection were all different, especially the most likely second stage, which was the incubation period, in which the infection had not yet completely mutated. At this stage, the difference between the target and a normal creature was very small. It required a high degree of precision and a large amount of experience to make a judgment. Luonan had the information provided by Trigate Security by his side. He had used the standards of the root receptacle, root nature, and root trigger taught by Gym Master Shio to distinguish them, but this was not enough. The technique of distinguishing between the nature and mechanism of a tool also required a large amount of experience as a foundation. Luonan's current accumulation was far from enough. Not to mention that mental sensing had always been a very personal experience. It was very hard to truly comprehend it just by looking at the information. He needed to discuss this with someone, but the advisor, Peony, was still traveling leisurely on the road. It was said that she would arrive in the afternoon. Luonan stood by the window and observed for a while, consuming nearly all of his interest. There was also a lack of breakthroughs in his train of thought. He was simply wasting time in tea. He picked up a teacup and took a sip, slightly relaxing his nerves. Then he felt a weak stimulation nearby. It was not a target, but it was non-hostile. Chattering. Luonan turned his head to look, accurately capturing the source of the stimulation. There was an aisle and a row of tables, and he saw a familiar face. The other party's expression was a bit stiff when they met Luonan's gaze, but they still nodded politely in greeting. Luonan responded and then ignored them. However, the other party was still within the range of his perception. There were two people at the other party's table. They were both women, and they had been talking private all this time. They had been talking about him since just now. "Xianxia, who's this? You're frozen stiff. Don't mind me." "No way. Don't tell me this is your ideal type? Turner will cry, right?" I said don't mind me. But he looks so weak. He's like a little submissive. Look at what he's wearing. It's an autumn sweater. The color is gray. It looks like some school uniform. He's always reading with his head down. He has no friends. He's all alone. He's a typical depressed person. Shut up. Hey, you're being too protective. Are you secretly in love with him? Big-headed fish. Okay. Let's not talk about him. Let's not talk about him. What do you think about the seat I booked? The plaza will certainly be a mess at night. This place is the best. It's quiet and the atmosphere is pretty good. It's more suitable for a woman like you. Speaking of which, that person is sitting there. It's fate. Hey, where are you going? The restroom. The conversation ended, and a young girl with a slender figure stood up from the table. She wore fashionable clothes and left with a taut face. However, she shot a glance at Luonan before she left. Unfortunately, their gazes met once more. She could only nod with a stiff expression. Then she turned around and left in a hurry. She was Yuqin. She was the second generation of a certain pharmaceutical company. Last time at Aurora Cloud City, she was Luonan's guest. Her older brother Yu Zhang's performance was terrible. He had caused quite a bit of trouble, but she had always been very calm and smart. She behaved with propriety. The impression she gave others was okay. Luonan paid more attention to the reservation information Yuqin revealed during her conversation with her companion. He tapped on the table and sure enough he saw that the reservation time was displayed. It was from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. the next day. In other words, he could only stay at this seat until 6 p.m. at most. Then this place would belong to someone else. Should he find another place? Hold on. Since the two young girls could think of this, then the others. Luonan immediately entered keywords such as municipal plaza, parade, performance, and so on. Sure enough, the reservation service had already been activated for the relevant window viewing seats, and the number of available seats was rapidly disappearing. He only hesitated for a bit at two relatively remote seats. Game over. Forget it. With his mental senses, it didn't really matter if the location was good or bad. Perhaps it was even safer. Luonan sighed. He leaned his back against the back of the soft chair and closed his eyes to rest. But he felt that something was wrong in the next second. He opened his eyes and saw Yuqin's companion walking over with light steps. Her round face was smiling and she had very cute baby fat. She wore a pair of ladies' sunglasses on the tip of her nose. They were crooked and she looked as if she had stolen them from home to play. She looked very young and tender. However, she was quite tall. She wore a loose pink windbreaker paired with black pencil pants and white sneakers. Her frame was very lively. Chapter 451. It was hard to imagine that this girl, who called herself Fathead Fish, wouldn't care about anything else. She started off with a bunch of beeps. Luonan was stunned for a moment when faced with such a familiar person. He politely got up and touched Bayu's hand. He introduced himself, Luonan. Hello. We know each other now. As she spoke, Bayu sat in the seat across from Luonan. She giggled as she looked at him. Her eyes seemed to be shining. How long have you known Xian'er? I know all of Xian'er's friends, but I've never seen you before. I'm a student at Acumen College. I used to be at 6th High. I also used to be at 6th High. Bayu suddenly became excited. It's fate. But how come we've never met before? Luonan laughed. Do you know Imohan? I'm her cousin. And In's cousin? Isn't that a little fatty called Imopeng? I'm the other one. Oh, what a coincidence. I'm also a transfer student. I transferred to Xiqing District 2 years ago for the sake of making my debut. But you should be pretty low-key in 6th High, right? Yeah, I don't really come out to play. Bayu's heart was filled with curiosity. She was a young girl driven by curiosity. She didn't have any scheming thoughts. Luonan suddenly felt that Yuqin's circle of friends was pretty good. She didn't hate anyone other than her blood-related older brother. It was said to judge people by their friends. Just from this point alone, Yuqin was quite good. In any case, the perfect plan was ruined. There was still some time before Moya's treat. Luonan was bored, so he chatted to pass the time. You just mentioned making your debut. Are you an artist? Bayu made a complicated yet adorable gesture. BHD's youngest, Bayu, will be joining us. Seeing Luonan's stupidly lack of reaction, Bayu's smiling face collapsed. I knew it. You don't belong to my fan club. Of course, I don't have many fans to begin with. Luonan was a bit embarrassed. Sorry, I really don't understand this. BHD is the name of the group? That's right, Bobblehead. But you just need to remember to shake your head, doll. The name is easy to remember. But it's still the 18th line. As she spoke, Bayu shook her head. Her movements matched her cute aura perfectly and her body swayed rhythmically. However, Luonan's gaze accidentally swept over her chest, which was completely incompatible with her age. This was because the trench coat had opened up after sitting down, and the thin layer of fabric inside could not hide the full curves. Acting like this at such a young age was simply against the rules. Luonan didn't have any crooked thoughts, but he was a bit embarrassed. He hurriedly averted his gaze and took the initiative to speak in order to conceal it. You and Yuqin came out to watch the parade? Baiyu waved her finger. Hey, although we are an unknown, we are still a duo that debuted. Do you see that? In the middle of the square, the scenery will be built in the afternoon. That will be our stage. Don't forget to help us tonight. As she spoke, she sighed again. We can't talk for too long. I still have to meet up with my sisters in a while to practice more. To the square. This sentence inexplicably made Baiyu laugh out loud. She burst out in laughter and almost threw her glasses off her nose bridge. It was on this building. The company is worried about traffic jams, so they rented a floor for practice. When rehearsals begin, we can use the underground passageway to go backstage. Rented a floor? Luonan was a bit shocked. He remembered that this was a large office building that occupied a large area. How much would it cost to rent it for a day? For an unknown girl group like BHD, would the cost of a night's performance be even a fraction of this? Baiyu understood Luonan's thoughts and said, Our company is very large. There are 5 or 6 groups participating tonight. There are even big singers and big singers. Luonan grunted and asked casually, Who is it? Baiyu was about to answer when hurried footsteps and a deep male voice approached at the same time. Doll. Oh my. Baiyu's first reaction was to jump up and lean against the previous table, but she didn't have the time to do so. Someone blocked her way. The person that appeared on the walkway was a man in formal attire. He was roughly 30 years old, had a straight face and had a serious expression. He faced Baiyu directly. You said that you came to pick up the teacher. Where's the teacher? That. Sit down. Are you afraid that people won't see you? The man in formal attire scolded in a low voice and indicated for Baiyu to sit down. He sat down as well just in front of Luonan. Only now did he cast his gaze towards Luonan. The meaning of scrutiny was extremely thick, and his thick eyebrows were knotted together. Your friend? Dating? How is that possible? Baiyu nearly jumped up again, but she retreated in defeat under the gaze of the man in formal attire. She could only speak pitifully. Brother Jing, you've misunderstood. This is my best friend's husband. Husband my ass. Chatting with Baiyu was very relaxing, but being entangled with her was boring. Luonan wanted to communicate with this guardian-like man. But before he could get up, he noticed that Yuqin had returned from the restroom. She didn't see Baiyu when she returned to her seat and looked around blankly. Baiyu waved at her fiercely. She was mindful of the surrounding environment, so she secretly shouted, don't get lost. Over here. Yuqin turned her head when she heard this. She was separated by an aisle and saw that Baiyu was actually sitting together with Luonan. She was immediately stupefied. Baiyu shouted at her, Hurry up and come claim your boyfriend. Don't let Brother Jing misunderstand. Aren't we together? Luonan lowered his head to look at the number of cups on the table. He knew that this fathead fish was probably in a real tragedy. Brother Jing clearly saw through this, but he didn't say anything. His gaze shifted back and forth between Luonan and Yuqin. He seemed to be deep in thought. Yuqin hesitated for 2 seconds. In the end, she walked over and stood by the table. She quietly shot a glance at Luonan during this process. Then she slightly lowered her head. She was probably trying to find a balance between respect and calmness. But unfortunately she failed. Her slightly fast heartbeat, her controlled breathing, her nervous system's inhibition and counter-inhibition. Every detail exposed her nervous state of mind. Baiyu wouldn't be able to see through this, but the man in formal attire across from her would probably be able to see some clues. But then again, this man gave Luonan a strange feeling. Luonan thought for a bit and took advantage of the situation to get up. He faced Yuqin and said, You can sit inside. This is... Luonan was asking Baiyu, but Yuqin, who was still standing there without moving, quivered. She took half a step forward and said softly, This is Mingtang Culture's manager, Mr. Hai Jing. Hai Jing? Luonan was curious. Before Luonan could figure it out, Hai Jing's serious face relaxed from astonishment and bewilderment. In the end, it transformed into a carefree smile. Master, is that you? Chapter 452. Upon closer inspection, the title was just a knock on the door. The true key was the smile on Hai Jing's face. He opened his mouth wide and revealed his teeth. His unrestrained and smooth expression instantly broke through the solemn temperament of his formal attire. It caused the clean face before Luonan's eyes to overlap with a large face with sideburns. Hai Jing, the first lead singer of Mountain Stream, the band Emoya belonged to. That was 6 years ago. Emoya was still in her 3rd year of high school at the time. She had just joined the band and obtained the position of melody guitarist with her skillful technique. Luonan was just a brat who wasn't even 10 years old. He had yet to start researching formatting theory. In today's sense, life had yet to begin. However, Luonan still had some impressions in his chaotic and blurry memories. Hai Jing, the lead singer of the band at the time, had a resounding and clear voice. It could be said that he had a gorgeous voice. He was the type that Luonan could accept in the noisy and chaotic underground rock circle. It could be said that the entire Mountain Stream band style was built around this lead singer. Emoya's gorgeous solo performance, known as the Palace on Strings, brought out the best in Luonan's style. Many times they would be called low-level, vulgar, and trendy dogs in the circle because of this. Emoya had cried because of this. The one who had hugged and comforted her back then was Hai Jing. Luonan had always been conservative. This kind of intimate and caring attitude was already beyond his expectations. So Luonan had the impression that Hai Jing had been a candidate for brother-in-law for quite some time. But later this potential brother-in-law suddenly disappeared from her memory. Tieske, the human memory mechanism was really strange. A small trigger was able to make the already gray and gray images regain color and flow. Luonan was immersed in his memories. He seemed to have returned to that ignorant and clean world. There were some subtle changes in his emotions. He subconsciously laughed. "Brother Jing, long time no see. You're actually a manager now." Hai Jing laughed. "You came to see Emoya's performance? She said she would treat me to lunch." Then thank me." Hai Jing pointed at his own nose. "I was the one who booked the restaurant. Didn't you know? Emoya and the others just signed a 2-year contract with Mingtang. I just so happened to be in charge of today's performance." "Ah, you signed a contract?" Luonan was a bit embarrassed. He really didn't know. Just a week ago. They performed well at the Manching Music Festival, and the company was optimistic about their prospects. "Has Emoya been hiding outside for the past few days?" I've really offended my aunt." Hai Jing's deep understanding of Emoya made Luonan vaguely believe that Emoya had always been here for the past few years. Hai Jing nodded. He pondered for a moment as if he was considering something. In the end he pointed upwards. "Emoya and the others are rehearsing now. They are in the same place as Dal and the others. Do you want to go and take a look?" Before Luonan could respond, Baiyu was already dumbstruck. "Why? Why can't I invite xianxia?" Hai Jing glanced at her. "Xianxi's contract is a management contract, while yours is a training contract. That is the difference." Baiyu was immediately defeated. But then she saw that Luonan was looking in the direction of Hai Jing's finger. Luonan had a very focused appearance and she couldn't help but spit. "Hey! There are still over 10 floors." Of course, Luonan wouldn't say that he had locked onto Emoya's position through his mental senses. He just nodded and smiled at Baiyu before asking Hai Jing, "Is it convenient?" Hai Jing seemed to have thought things through. This is Xianxi's first performance since they transformed from an underground band. The scene tonight will be huge. I'm worried that they'll be nervous. Having a family nearby will certainly help. I heard that it's a scale of several 100,000 people? The company estimates that it can reach 1 million people at its peak. Rock bands naturally have an advantage in this kind of occasion. It's an excellent opportunity. 1 million people. Luonan clicked his tongue. Emoya, that fellow. She really went wherever there was excitement. But was their band already at the level where they could perform in public at a large-scale event with 1 million people? How about this? Touch me with your wristband and I'll give you the authority. Since the security around the plaza has been upgraded, we can only use a face-to-face invitation to increase the authority. Luckily, I still have a spot on my side. Doll, what are you doing? Baiyu withdrew her finger and had an innocent expression. Brother Jing, are you trying to ruin their date? Are you trying to break up an affectionate couple? This wasn't the end. Luonan rolled his eyes. Next to him, Yuqin took a quiet breath. She raised the teapot and poured tea for Luonan. Her demeanor was refined and gentle, and it matched perfectly with Baiyu. Yuqin's appearance was definitely because she still had lingering fears from the conflict last time. She was deliberately acting low and small. Luonan felt that it was pointless. He waved his hand and was about to speak, but Hai Jing spoke first. 1 is a hire. 2 is also a hire. It just so happens that the company is short on manpower right now. I'll just take in 2 temporary workers. Brother Jing, you have a lot of knowledge. Bai gasped in admiration. She gave Hai Jing a thumbs up and winked at Yu Qin. Yu Qin forced a smile and took another deep breath. She stole a glance at Luonan and remained silent. Hai Jing quickly shared the authority with them. Then he got up and said, let's not waste time. Let's go back. I'll tell you guys about the things to take note of on the way. Hey doll, you're not done yet? Bai raised her head and revealed a careful smile. Brother Jing, did you forget about the teacher? Hai Jing was a bit startled. He was a bit embarrassed under the gazes of Luonan and the other 2. He slapped his forehead and sat back down. I almost forgot. I'm going to make a phone call. The call connected a few seconds later. Then he hung up. I've already arrived. I've used up my authority. Bai, bring out yours. It seems that this is the reason for me to approve your leave, right? Bai giggled. She stretched her neck to size up the entrance. I don't see anyone. Did you guys drink too much again? If we get the smell of alcohol from our bodies, Brother Jing, you'll have to help us explain to the company. It could be seen that Hai Jing had a close relationship with Bai and the other artists. Work was work. Friendship was friendship. Hai Jing could clearly distinguish between the 2 and complement each other. It seemed that he was doing quite well as an agent. However, it was a pity that the loud and clear lead singer of Mountain Creek would probably never be able to come back. Luonan was a bit lost in thought, but he was soon awakened by a stimulus. His brows furrowed. Bai had already locked onto her target. She's coming. She's coming. Teacher, over here. Luonan turned his head and saw a woman around 30 years old walking over. She wore no makeup, but her slightly brown skin was extremely lustrous. It didn't give off a dark feeling. She wore a white long-sleeved t-shirt with a jacket draped over her shoulder. She wore dark blue bloomers paired with nude high heels. She was dressed to the point of being a complete mess. She looked very confident and at ease, but in essence. Hai Jing stood up to greet her. He called her teacher, but he didn't mention her name. It sounded a bit awkward. Bai also chuckled as she leaned over. She hugged the person across the reading table. Teacher, it's been a week. You must teach me how to take care of my skin this time. Alright, let me introduce you. Bai enthusiastically introduced them. These 2 are. There's no need for introductions. I've met them before. Yu Qin had already stood up. She bowed and greeted the person. Hello, Teacher Cat Eyes. You still remember my name? How thoughtful. The person had a subtle smile on her lips. Her gaze didn't linger on Yu Qin. Instead, she took the opportunity to look at Luonan, who was slowly getting up. When their gazes met, her complicated smile finally blossomed. Hey boss. Your new target? Luonan had a serious expression. Teacher Cat Eyes, don't joke with me. He could only respond like this. Otherwise, he would have no way of explaining things to Hai Jing and Bai. Hai Jing appeared to be quite shrewd, but Bai was already stupefied. You guys know each other? The boss behind the scenes of your teacher's studio is Luonan? It can't be. Luonan finally laughed, but his laugh was very powerless. I said it was just a joke. As for whether it was a joke or the cause and effect, Cat Eyes, take care of it for me first. The casual and confident-looking woman before him was none other than Cat Eyes. Her public identity was that of a dance teacher. In the inner world, she was a registered member of the Ability User Society. She was a psychic sensing awakened, and her most proficient ability was long-range perception. However, from Luonan's perspective, this female awakened, who was in the prime of her life, had the most significant attribute. She was a believer on the staff level under his formatting theory. She was a component of a large production line that provided him with an unending supply of soul strength. Cat Eyes had not met Luonan since the incident at Aurora Cloud City. However, the connection between them was much more frequent than before. They continued to break in. Luonan took the initiative. He didn't care much. Cat Eyes was completely passive. She thought quite a bit. Over a dozen days passed. Whether Cat Eyes was happy or not, she began to get used to the existence of a boss. This little bastard didn't sign a contract. He didn't pay her wages. He didn't give her any chance to leave. A staff member? A slave. The only thing that made Cat Eyes rejoice over was that this boss, Luonan, was quite undisciplined in his management. Luonan generally wouldn't give her trouble. Even if he did, the difficulty wasn't too high. Cat Eyes didn't want to change this. So when her emotions stabilized, she maintained this state of interaction with Luonan. She didn't give Luonan any trouble. He and I have been practicing dancing recently. He's a guy who really knows how to make bets. I lost, so I changed the way I address him. As she spoke, she shot a glance at Yuqin. Yuqin cleverly lowered her eyelids. She acted as if she didn't see or hear anything. Hai Jing laughed. So that's how it is. Bai Yu asked in a silly manner, what kind of bet? Bet on your life or something like that. Cat Eyes laughed as she stroked Bai Yu's face. Let's go. From the moment we meet, time starts. Pay by the minute. The awkward conversation came to an end. Cat Eyes obtained permission from Bai Yu. The group immediately followed Hai Jing. They left the library and entered the private elevator of the building. After swiping the permission, the elevator locked onto the floor and went up automatically. Hai Jing made arrangements in the elevator. Teacher and Bai Yu will go to the practice room. Nanster and Yuqin will first come with me to change their nameplates. Sign a temporary contract as well. This way you will have the status of a staff member. You won't be too conspicuous. It will be more convenient to enter and exit. So complicated. Bai Yu sighed a little. Luonan expressed his thanks. Sorry for the trouble, Brother Jing. It's nothing. You guys coming is the same as helping me. Ha. Don't worry. You won't get tired even if there's work. Chapter 453. The door to the practice room opened a crack, and the scattered notes floated out. Under the guidance of the bass, the clear chords of the guitar streaked through 2 bars before breaking off. Then came the sound of discussion. Look, the effect is better without plugging in. You're using an acoustic guitar in a 1,000,000-person venue? Aren't you trusting the organizer's equipment too much? The effect indoors and outdoors can't be compared. A small venue and a large venue are 2 different things. The acoustic guitar plan is too radical. I don't approve of it. But we need to highlight the harmonies? Wrong. We need to ignite the atmosphere. We can't ruin the entire song for the sake of 2 bars of harmonies. Don't argue for now. Let's find the feeling. Let's try a different amplifier. Then came a series of chaotic noises. When the notes floated out once more, harmony was added in the room. But it didn't even last a bar before breaking off again. Arguments arose once more. Luonan laughed and shook his head. Then he closed the door, not touching the restless and trembling atmosphere inside. He turned to look at Hai Jing behind him. They're really nervous. Hai Jing was a bit surprised. We're not going in? We're not going in. I'm afraid Emoya will smash us with her guitar. Not yet, but it's hard to say for the others. Hai Jing touched the door handle and gave up. Then let's wait for the practice to end. After all, they're an underground band. Their nature has changed after signing with Mingtang culture. Right now is their period of transformation. It's not wrong to be nervous. Did they sign a contract or personal relationships? In other words, they'll pay more attention to commercial development, right? Yes, the trend. Hai Jing let out a light breath. I don't know if bringing them out from the underground circle is a good or bad thing. With Emoya, his cousin who was obsessed with bands, around, Luonan knew a few things about the underground circle no matter how much he immersed himself in his own world. Signing with an underground band was a relatively sensitive topic. Many bands looked forward to signing a contract with a management company or a music company. They wanted to walk from the underground to the surface. But the traditional style of buying records but not selling their bodies, and the habit of despising the trend was still very powerful. It would be fine if they really soared to the top, but the worst thing was that they would be rejected by the underground circle and the pop circle at the same time. Many bands would collapse at this stage. It was just like the awakening of supernatural powers. If they succeeded, everything would be fine, but if they failed, they would be stuck at the edge of 2 worlds. Forget about the pressure from the outside world, just the confusion about where they stood was enough to make them suffer. Luonan shook his head. A sliver of heaven. A sliver of earth. Hai Jing chuckled when he saw Luonan's appearance. He rubbed Luonan's head in passing. Little fellow, when did you become so mature? Luonan was stupefied. Hai Jing was a bit embarrassed when she saw Luonan's expression. Don't mind me. My hand slipped. It's okay. You're the big brother. Luonan didn't care at all. I remember calling you uncle at the very beginning. You had a beard back then. Aya, you still remember? Hai Jing grinned and pulled a bit of distance away from Luonan. He leaned against the opposite wall of the practice room and took out an exquisite box from his pocket. There were 3 e-cigarettes arranged neatly inside. He picked one up and put it in his mouth. His words were a bit unclear. Back then you were really muddle-headed. You look stupid. The temperature of his mouth triggered the switch of the e-cigarette as he spoke. There was a crackling sound, and the front of the e-cigarette was slightly red. Smoke rose in spirals. Luo Nan watched the red light on and off the front of the e-cigarette, and some memories from the depths of his brain resurfaced. Maybe. You even said that my surname shouldn't be Gong. I should be called Gong. If I don't ring, I won't ring. Then you splashed your fruit juice on my face and extinguished the cigarette. Oh, that was my first time visiting your house. I stole a puff in the yard. Why did I have to talk so much? So embarrassing. Hai Jing waved his hand. He stuck his head to the wall and forced his face to the ceiling. He looked like he didn't have the face to see anyone. Perhaps this was also called not being proper. Luo Nan was more familiar with this image compared to Hai Jing's well-dressed suit. He laughed again and said to Hai Jing, "There's no band that doesn't want to sign a contract. I don't know about Emoya. My aunt has always felt that the underground circle is too chaotic. If she knew that Emoya signed with a proper management company, she should be happy. The underground circle is chaotic. This circle isn't peaceful either." The e-cigarette in Hai Jing's mouth shook up and down. Mingtang culture is facing a change in its shares. It's a matter right now. Forget it. Let's not talk about this. Luonan felt a bit of empathy. Not being able to enter the circle of the awakened was one thing. Truly entering the inner world seemed to bring all sorts of troubles. Obsession underground. Troubles in the sky. None of them can be avoided. Okay. You've become a philosopher. Did something hasten your maturity? Luonan blinked and changed the topic. Brother Jing, you still quit smoking in the end. I haven't really smoked for the past 2 years. It's funny when I think about it. I can't quit no matter what when I'm singing. But once I stop singing, it's all over. Hai Jing's wristband vibrated at this time. He lowered his head to look at it. Then he straightened his body and removed the e-cigarette. Here comes the trouble. I'll take you to find a place to rest. There are quite a few empty rooms here. Wasting them is wasting them, but safety and privacy are guaranteed. Luo Nan nodded and followed. Hai Jing put the e-cigarette back into the box. He suddenly thought of something and waved the box. All right. Thank your uncle for me. He was the one who recommended this Star Ember series to me. Luo Nan laughed without saying anything. But he suddenly remembered. Emoya had so many friends. Among the men, only Hai Jing was able to visit her home alone and enter her room. Perhaps this was the key reason why he mistook Hai Jing for his brother-in-law? Mistook. Mingtang culture was one of the organizers of this parade. Before the official performance, there were a multitude of matters to attend to. Hai Jing said that he was going to lead Luo Nan to find an empty room to rest in. But he hadn't taken a few steps when an urgent matter came pressing down on him. He needed to rush over immediately. Forget it. You go by yourself. Room 5627. Just turn around the corner at the end of the corridor. Hai Jing joked as he spoke. Don't worry about bumping into people. It's fine if you try one by one. Every practice room has its own privileges. You can't enter without authorization. Okay. Go do what you need to do, Brother Jing. Hai Jing turned around and was about to leave when he remembered something. All right. Your girlfriend is in room 5621. She's with by you and the others. You can go there and take a stroll. With your friendship with Teacher Cat Eyes, she shouldn't kick you out. BHD's music style is more suited to the tastes of you youngsters. You made 3 mistakes in a single sentence. Should I correct you or not? In the end, Luo Nan could only accept it with a smile. Hai Jing wanted to rub Luo Nan's head, but he came to his senses in time. He placed a palm on Luo Nan's shoulder. Have fun this weekend, but you need to show some concern for your sister. Luo Nan looked pensive as he watched Hai Jing leave in a hurry. 5627, 5627. Luo Nan followed Hai Jing's instructions and found room 5627 in the corner. He was just about to reach his hand out to grab the door handle when he suddenly stopped. He raised his head to confirm the room number. 5627. That's right. There are no problems with the privileges. But why were the 2 people inside able to go in? And why were they having fun so much? The use of mental senses actually manifested here. Right now there was only one thing he was conflicted over. Should he continue watching? Or should he continue watching? Luo Nan sighed outside the door. There was a saying in Hai Jing that was very true. The industry was very messy. Youngsters these days were quite knowledgeable. No one was a pure white lotus. Luo Nan had attended health classes before. Mo Peng would sometimes sneakily give him some indescribable materials and the like. Luo Nan was not lacking in concepts. But he had devoted himself to researching all sorts of theories since the age of 10. He worked every day and night. How could he have the leisure to delve into these things? He never expected that 16 years of emptiness would bring him this sort of high-level course in a single day of enlightenment. They should both be artists. The man was handsome and the woman was beautiful. Though their clothes were in disarray, their makeup and grooming were extremely fashionable. It was hard for Luonan to avoid lingering on the body of the woman. Though he didn't approve of this sort of behavior in broad daylight, he had to admit that they were very good-looking. The woman's long hair covered half of her face. The contours of her face were slightly distorted due to the intense exercise. However, artists had innate conditions that were a cut above others. They also had strict body management as well as the polishing of temperament and style. When they were released in the dark room, they really did have a charm that stirred people's hearts. Stop. What in the world am I thinking? Luonan didn't know how long he stood at the door in a daze. Of course he didn't enter in the end. Instead he walked forward with quick steps. After walking for nearly 20 meters, he finally stood still in the middle of the hallway and let out a long breath. His lips hadn't even parted due to the fast exhalation of air. His lips trembled rapidly under the impact of the airflow, emitting a strange puffing sound. The restless air that was stuck in his chest dissipated a bit with this comical sound. Goo! The forceful choking sound of laughter was very clear in the hallway. At the same time the sound of laughter entered Luonan's ears, the door to the next room opened a crack to reveal Bayu's cute round face. What the hell? You're so conflicted just by entering the door? Luonan raised his head to look at the room number 5621. This was BHD's practice room. What a coincidence. He turned his head to glance back. He had walked nearly 20 meters and was only 2 doors away from room 5627. After all, the practice rooms were very large. Bayu must have just gone through a round of practice. A thin layer of sweat covered her forehead, sticking to her hair. Her face was flushed red as well. Did you see your sister? You came here to visit me? That's right, your girlfriend is in there. Don't you know if she's my girlfriend or not? Luonan only realized the ambiguity when he said it. He laughed bitterly. She has a boyfriend. What's that Caucasian guy's name again? Turner. Bayu blurted out. Then she covered her mouth and shot a glance behind her. She turned her head to look at the two ends of the hallway. Only when she didn't see anyone did she let out a sigh of relief. Then she pushed open the door and walked out. She closed the door behind her and lowered her voice. Don't let Jianghu hear you. He hates it when his artists lie. Luonan frowned as he watched Bayu walk out. Bayu had been practicing her dance in the room just now. She had even worn 10-centimeter high heels in order to imitate the scene of the performance to the greatest degree. Her well-developed body had grown a bit taller. When she stood together, she was taller than Luonan by 2 or 3 fingers. Of course, this wasn't important. What was important was that Bayu was wearing a tight-fitting dance outfit. She was already drenched in sweat. The curve of her chest caused a gap to appear in her small round collar. Her snowy white flesh shone in front of Luonan's eyes. He didn't know whether to look at her or turn his head. But, seeing Bayu's expression, he took the opportunity to walk over and the two of them stood against the wall. Bayu let out a sigh of relief. She then lowered her head and crossed her hands over her abdomen. Her posture was as proper as a flight attendant's. At this moment, a group of people happened to pass by. She immediately smiled and greeted them in a low but clear voice, Sister Weiwei, Director Wu. Even with Luonan's eyesight, he wasn't able to see whether or not the powerful woman responded. Instead, a middle-aged man in his 50s spoke to Luonan's side, Don't loiter around outside. If you need to practice, go practice. The dense mass of people walked past. They made a right turn at the end of the corridor, breaking away from Luonan and Bayu's line of sight. However, Luonan's mental senses remained clairvoyant from beginning to end. At the corner was a semi-sealed passageway. The passageway was locked by a transparent electronic door. At the end of the passageway was a carved double door. Behind the door was a rather luxurious suite that could easily fit dozens of people. The group of people walked into the suite. Not long after, the service staff who had just followed them in hurriedly left, most likely having received a task. Seeing the service staff pass by, Bayu stuck out her tongue. I got caught. I have to get out of here. Hold on, who's that? Director Wu. She's the head of the company's artist department. Brother Jing's immediate superior. Of course, she's also our big boss. Bayu's eyes blinked as she spoke. It was as if she was telling Luonan that she was different from the boss she had won a bet with. Luonan's heartbeat sped up a bit when he was stared at by these eyes. Unfortunately, the scene of the ravine and snow-white muscles kept swaying in his mind. He did his best to rid himself of the effects of his hormones and tried to chat normally. That Sister Wei Wei should be an artist as well. It looks like she's treated much better than you. How can that be the same? You don't know her? I'm not familiar with the entertainment circle. You really don't know her? What's there to show off? My heart suddenly feels better. Bai clasped her hands together and made a gesture of thanking God. Then she happily explained to Luonan, that's the pillar of our Mingtang culture, Shi Wei. She's a standard A-list artist. She's quite famous in East Asia and Southeast Asia. Shi Wei? You don't have any impression? No, I can remember a bit. She debuted as a super pure and innocent celebrity. She seems to have successfully transformed her career. Her acting path is quite wide. There was a period of time when Mo Peng was very obsessed with her. He borrowed money from me to buy peripherals. Baiyu let out a long sigh. Peripherals? When we debuted, peripherals were half sold and half given away. Even so, we still accumulated half a warehouse. She's not like Sister Wei. He signaled for Luonan to come over and instructed, you and Assistant Meng exchange numbers. Remove the nameplate and go to Ruifeng building. Bring back the pre-ordered breakfast set. I've already trained you guys on how to hide from reporters. Be smart. There was no need to explain the cause and effect. Luonan couldn't refuse in this situation. Otherwise he would be digging a hole for Haijing. He responded honestly, removed the nameplate, turned around and left. Director Wu and Assistant Meng returned to the suite. Luonan quickly walked through the hallway, but just as he passed room 5621, a crack in the door of the practice room opened. Baiyu poked her head out. Oh, the refreshments of Ruifeng building. They're so damn expensive. And they don't have takeout service. I can only pick them up from their doorstep. But I heard that they're good for your looks. I really need to run errands this time. The girl had been eavesdropping through the crack in the door all this time. Luonan didn't care about running errands. Haijing was able to bring him in. Why couldn't he do something? He asked casually, do you want some? I'll give you some along the way. There's no need for refreshments. I can't afford them. She turned around and said a few words into the room. A few seconds later she poked her head out again. She blinked her eyes fiercely and did her best to charm. Brother Luonan, come in for a bit, okay? Luonan sighed and entered the room according to her words. 4 gazes fell upon him as soon as he entered the room. He recognized Cat Eyes and Yu Qin. There were also 2 young girls who were a bit older than Baiyu. They were undoubtedly the other 2 members of the BHD group. Haijing had mentioned before that one of them was Shui Yuan, who had the nickname of Housekeeper. The other was Clara, Barbie. As members of a girl group, their personas were quite distinct. The one who was drenched in sweat and had a white towel draped over her shoulder was frowning as she looked over. She was most likely Shui Yuan. She had a serious face and her figure was the most well-proportioned and fit. As for Clara, she was undoubtedly the charming mixed-blood beauty. Her skin was as white as milk and her looks were extremely high. Baiyu giggled and clapped. Hurry up, hurry up. High-end free labor is only available once. Boss Luo is going to Ruifeng Road to pick up takeout. Anyone who wants to pick up something along the way, hurry up and sign up. The floor is closed right now. If you miss this opportunity, you'll have no hope at all. Shredded radish? The charming Clara let out a low laugh. She was amorous and she was much more mature than her age. She also casually created a new nickname for Luonan. Barbie. Doll. As the captain, Shui Yuan naturally opened her mouth to reprimand her team members for their impolite actions. But when the nicknames of these 2 were linked together, it was quite funny. Shui Yuan acted as if she didn't notice. She took the initiative to extend her hand. You must be student Luo. Hello. Luonan extended his hand in response, but he was slapped away by Cat Eyes who had just walked over halfway. Cat Eyes didn't care about Luonan and Shui Yuan's awkwardness. She clapped her hands to attract everyone's attention. If we delay any longer, we'll miss breakfast time. The boss is running errands for Shi Wei. It takes around half an hour for him to go back and forth to Ruifeng building. The other takeout deliveries should arrive around this time as well. How about this? Everyone can order their own food and wait for the boss to come back to bring it up at the same time? No problems, right? Chapter 455. The group of people all rolled over in laughter. But these girls did not know how much complicated information was contained in Luonan and Cat Eye's conversation. They also did not know what sort of sharpness was hidden in their gazes. Luonan was drunk when faced with such a believer who was unconvinced and had a tendency to self-destruct. Xuanhuan, who was next to Luo Nan, thought of something. She suggested, let's first exchange numbers. We'll send our orders to student Luo to avoid mistakes and to avoid transferring again. Baiyu was the first to agree. But she turned around and revealed a fierce expression. If the private numbers of 3 future idols get out, you're dead for sure. Unfortunately, no matter how much she twisted her face, her adorable round face could only show cuteness. Luo Nan shrugged and extended his hand to exchange numbers with them. He also gained the friendship of the BHD girl group. He waved his hand, turned around and walked out. You guys hurry up and order your food. Also, please pay attention to the type of food. Fast food and pastries are the best. I don't want to have to wait downstairs for a dozen or 20 minutes after coming back. Baiyu let out an ah, and expressed with extreme innocence, we're all obese. What about body management? Xuanhuan stared at her. Body management has already collapsed the moment you suggested it. But Captain, you didn't refute it. I'll take you guys to strengthen your training for 2 hours. Hypocrite. Pervert. Luo Nan had already opened the door to leave the BHD group's internal strife. At this time, the silent Yuqin walked up to him and whispered into his ear, Mr. Luo, let me go with you. No need, no need. Cat Eyes giggled as she hugged Yuqin's shoulder. She kissed her and firmly pressed her down. Right now he's burning hot. His head has a fever. It'll be better for him to go out by himself. You're the one with a fever. Luo Nan retorted. But when he saw Cat Eye's expression, he understood that something good had happened next door. It was impossible to hide it from her. In fact, Cat Eyes might have even seen his relatively straightforward reaction earlier on. Was it awkward? Of course it was. But his special relationship with Cat Eyes had more or less dispelled a portion of it. He just glared at her and opened the door. Cat Eyes suddenly said, I won't order a meal for you. You can just go to Auspicious Abundance Restaurant and receive a flowing stone set. Simple and quick. Thank you, boss. As she spoke, Cat Eyes gave him a salute. Luo Nan turned his head, speechless for a time. He didn't know the market price of Ruifeng restaurant, but from the look of fear on Baiyu's face, he could tell how powerful the flowing stone was. Fortunately, he had just earned a large sum of money last night, so he had some confidence. In the end, he just waved his hand and walked out of the door. If you want to do this sort of plan again, then find someone better. Luo Nan roughly observed the situation around the municipal plaza. The living starry sky was becoming more and more crowded. It was like a river overflowing under a torrential rain. Millions and millions of stars flowed endlessly, refreshing at every moment. If Luo Nan wanted to search for ability users, mutants or even darksider species like the Wraith Sign, Luo Nan would not be afraid. But if he wanted to search for Phase 2 infected. Phase 2? You want to search for Phase 2? Peony was surprised for once. What's wrong? Right now it's estimated to be Phase 2. Of course I want to search for Phase 2 and be vigilant against Phase 3. Peony interrupted his words. Mr. Partner, you have obsessive-compulsive disorder, right? Cough. That's because I lack common sense. Right now in the world, there are no methods outside of the laboratory that can effectively determine the existence of Phase 2 infected. Especially in this sort of environment. I believe this is the most basic of common sense. You're not going to search for Phase 2? Of course. Phase 1 is the source of infection for mutants. Phase 3 is the target for primary mutants. These are the targets of search that have actual meaning. I know that Phase 2 infected people have more value in management, but that's only in theory. It doesn't have any actual meaning. Perhaps only people with severe obsessive-compulsive disorder would consider things from this angle. Luo Nan was certain that if Peony stood in front of him, he would accelerate at full speed and crash into her. Several seconds later, Peony sent him a low chuckle. Mr. Partner, are you angry? Luo Nan ignored her. I'm sorry. Maybe I haven't completely sobered up, or maybe I'm on my period. I don't really pay attention to what I say. You should already be in the plaza right now. Do you want to meet up with me? I've always been quite curious about a partner like you. Luo Nan's eyebrows jumped. He instinctively looked all around, believing that Peony had discovered him. He only reacted half a second later. She was still walking leisurely on the road right now, and Ink was her best informant. But on the other hand, Luo Nan had displayed a degree of familiarity with the current situation of the plaza because Ink was together with her. This made Peony make a judgment that matched the facts. Did he give himself away? Luo Nan hesitated for a moment. He wasn't interested in maintaining a sense of mystery, but Her Majesty Empress Wu must have had her reasons for arranging this pattern. There was no need to complicate matters. So he refused. He put on a little act in passing. Compared to my eyes, your plan is more meaningful. Fine. In any case, someone is treating me to lunch. Even though I might not go. Then we'll contact each other again in the afternoon. Could it be that in the eyes of others, he really was a big boss who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance? A big boss who would annihilate an entire family? Luonan sighed. It's good that you came. Help keep an eye out for a bit. I'll go find a luggage cart or something. Only now did Yuqin truly count the number of food boxes stacked under Luonan's feet. She was a bit shocked. This many? It seems like Clara ordered lunch for the seniors in the same building. Chapter 456. Yuqin and Clara's friendship had not yet reached the stage of judging behind her back, so she only smiled. As it turned out, the possibility of finding a luggage cart in the lobby of an office building was almost zero. In the end, the two of them still had to use the simplest method of manual labor to move the food boxes into the elevator. Let's move one batch first. Later you guard the elevator. I'll move the rest over. All right. By the way, call them, especially Clara. Just wait outside the elevator. It's a waste not to use the labor. Once we arrive at the station, we'll split them up. Yuqin obeyed obediently and really called the other side. Then the two of them picked up the big and small food boxes and walked inside. Since it was a private elevator, not many people used it. They didn't see anyone else on the way. It was also at this moment that Yuqin finally broke the veil. Mr. Luo, I'm very sorry. Luonan gazed at the long corridor in front of him. He was a bit helpless. I don't care about that matter. I know. Yuqin lowered her eyes and smiled faintly, her meaning subtle. I can see that. However, I said, sorry, because if I didn't do something unnecessary to confirm it from you, I wouldn't be able to feel at ease. That's why I pestered you so much today. Please forgive me. Only then did Luonan shoot her a glance. He nodded and said, it's fine. Before Yuqin could say anything else, the elevator in front of them opened and a middle-aged man hurried out. He was dressed in formal attire, and the style was quite similar to that of Hai Jing. He took off the nameplate on his chest as he walked. Luonan's eyes were sharp. He saw that it was the pass to Mingtang culture's floor. As they walked past each other, the man glanced at him. His wristband rang at that moment. He quickly answered the call and answered, Yes, I'm xiaxia. It's on the first floor of the Tonghui building. Just come over, I'll wait outside. No problem, there's absolutely no problem with the authority. Luonan piled up the food boxes in the elevator and left Yuqin to look after them. Then he went back and moved them a second time. In the lobby, he saw the man with the surname Xia standing straight outside the door like an old doorman. Luonan didn't mind. He carried the remaining food containers back to the elevator and tidied things up with Yuqin. They both swiped their nameplates and prepared to go up. A second later, the elevator doors opened again. He could vaguely hear the man surnamed Xia panting outside. I made it. Young master he, please. A group of people hurried in as they spoke. The leader of the group cursed, Xia City really has enough paparazzi. Luonan and Yuqin had already paid great attention to their placement, but there were far too many food boxes. The people who came later were in a rush. The person at the front nearly kicked over a food box when they swarmed in. Actually, Luonan had already kicked him, but Luonan used his interference power to move along with the force without making a sound. The momentum was eliminated and Luonan passed smoothly. He did it very discreetly. In the elevator, be it Yuqin or the person who came in first, none of them noticed. But outside the elevator, there was a strong reaction from the people who were entering one after another. They rushed forward and grabbed the shoulder of the person in the lead, forcefully pulling him back. His aura exploded, stirring up great waves. Luonan's mental senses had already covered the newcomer. He had not sensed the ability user earlier. However, in that instant, the person who had reacted first had actually leaped from an extremely ordinary state to at least C+. His explosive power was astonishing, and his ability to conceal his aura was even more impressive. Luonan's relaxed mind suddenly went taut. He locked onto the most threatening target in the first instance. He subconsciously extended his arm to block Yuqin behind him. But the scene suddenly changed in the next moment. Someone shouted, "Young Master He," and rushed up in a hurry. It was the person with the surname Xia, who was suspected to be an employee of Mingtang culture. The weather was obviously cold, but this person's face was covered in a layer of sweat. The sweat moistened his dry and loose cheeks. His face seemed to glow faintly and he was especially excited. What's going on? The elevator is broken. The person with the surname Xia saw Luo Nan and Yu Qin in the exclusive elevator. There were food boxes of all sizes by their feet. He was stunned, but soon he said angrily, "What's going on with you guys? This is an exclusive elevator assigned to our company. Non-authorized personnel are not allowed to enter." Luo Nan didn't pay attention to him. He just cautiously scanned everyone outside the elevator. He saw two familiar faces in a row, and it was inevitable that he was a bit surprised. At the same time, the most threatening person should have recognized him. His solemn expression loosened a bit. He bowed slightly, an apology for his overreaction just now. "Mr. Luo, what's the situation?" Xianxia, who was outside the building, communicated through the hexeer. His tone was nervous. The instantaneous explosion of the aura just now had appeared on the security team's monitoring equipment. It was truly a stone that stirred up 1,000 ripples. To put it bluntly, it was a complete mess. "It's a misunderstanding. It's nothing." Luo Nan privately replied to Xianxia. He found it a bit funny. In the end, was it a large-scale event to attract people? Or were the people of Xia City evil? Today's acquaintances were jumping out one by one. It was impossible to stop them. Luo Nan took care of both sides at the same time. It was inevitable that he would overlook the least important person. He didn't open his mouth, but Yu Qin stepped forward and spoke in a soft voice. "We followed Director Wu's instructions to go to Ruifeng building to get some refreshments for Sister Weiwei. You know, it's not convenient for Assistant Meng to leave right now." This reason was sufficient. The person with the surname Xia seemed to believe it. "You guys are from Mingtang culture? Where's the nameplate?" Director Wu had arranged for Luo Nan to remove his nameplate before leaving to avoid running into paparazzi reporters. Luo Nan forgot to hang his nameplate on his chest after entering the elevator and swiping his nameplate. He stuffed it back into his pocket. Most of Yu Qin's body was blocked behind him, so this person probably didn't see it. The other person's words were quite reasonable. Luo Nan took out his nameplate and spread it out in his palm, displaying it for the other person to see. The person with the surname Xia simply took the nameplate and blinked. His contact lenses scanned the nameplate, and the relevant information was read out. "Authorized by Haijing." "And yours?" Yu Qin copied Luo Nan and handed over her nameplate. The person with the surname Xia received it and confirmed it once more before nodding. It looked like he approved of it. He even revealed a smile on his face. "So you guys were brought by Haijing. Since you guys are Haijing's subordinates, have you never asked who their department head is?" There was such a thing? Luo Nan was just about to explain when he heard a loud bang. This Director Xia smashed the side wall of the elevator with force. "Which family do you guys belong to? You came in through crooked means? Mountain Creek or B? Speak." Luo Nan knew that things were bad when Manager Xia's expression suddenly changed. The two of them had indeed gone through the back door. They could accept being reprimanded. But Director Xia's words clearly put a label on Haijing. The meaning behind it was quite deep. Luo Nan frowned. The two acquaintances, outside the elevator, were watching with cold eyes. He didn't want to engage in a meaningless conflict and make a fool of himself, so he said, "We really were upstairs helping out. Every single bastard says the same thing. Then they do whatever they want to do." Director Xia sneered. "Director Wu has a myriad of problems to deal with every day. He only recognizes nameplates and not people. It's not strange that you guys have Haijing supporting you from behind. Everyone knows that Sister Wei has the habit of having morning and afternoon tea. But don't tell me you guys bought all of this for Sister Wei? Okay, you guys don't need to say anything. I'll have Haijing explain things to Director Wu." Director Xia quickly blinked twice and took a picture of Luo Nan and Yu Qin. He raised his chin. "Leave Sister Wei's tea and snacks behind. Take the rest out. Be more self-aware or else I'll call security." Director Xia turned his body after he finished speaking coldly. His arrogant figure instantly bent in half, and the wrinkles on his face piled up. "Young He, please wait a moment. We'll be done here soon." Chapter 457. No matter what, Yu Qin was born into a wealthy family. Even though she was submissive to Luo Nan, she was extremely arrogant in her bones. Director Xia was a department head of a management company, yet he was arrogant and bossy. He even spat out the words, "Get lost." How could she endure this? Show some respect. Miss, do you think it would be more respectful to let the security guards come and drag you away? Director Xia looked at Yu Qin's clothes. Most of them were fashionable items and her matching was quite good. He knew that this woman's family was quite well off. Normally he wouldn't have directly shed all pretense of cordiality. But right now he was backed by the young master of the He family. In a few days he would be like a fish leaping into a dragon. What was there to be afraid of? Director Xia held a breath of heroism as he stood in front of the elevator door. He felt more and more at ease. He didn't waste words and directly called for the building's security guards. He finished calling and saw that Luonan and Yuqin had no intention of coming out. He wasn't in a hurry. He reached out and pointed at the two. Shameless, huh? Fine. You guys stay here. Director Xia directly confiscated their nameplates and used his authority to lock down the elevator. Only then did he turn around and smile once more. Apologies, young he. I wasn't strict enough with my subordinates. I've made a fool out of myself. There's no reason to reason with these idle-chasing kids. I'll deal with the relevant personnel of the company severely later. Young he, don't let them ruin your mood. I'll have the property management open up a backup elevator. It won't take much time. Young he chuckled outside the elevator. It's fine. Director Xia handled things well. You've thought things through very thoroughly. It's my duty. It's my duty. Young he, this way please. Director Xia relaxed completely when he saw that Young he didn't blame him. He twisted his face and gave Luonan and Yuqin a cold glance. He was about to walk out of the elevator when he remembered something. Give me Sister Wei's refreshments. He wanted to be bold and confident, but Luonan and Yuqin were disinclined to pay attention to him. Director Xia saw that the security guards had already come over from the other end of the corridor. He was even more fearless. He simply did it himself. He lowered his head and searched through the food boxes on the floor. He had seen the refreshments and food boxes of Ruifeng building before. According to his thoughts, there was only one such high-end custom-made food box in the elevator. He could just take it away if he found it. He believed that this young couple wouldn't dare to snatch it. But when he cast his gaze over, Director Xia was stunned. 1, 2, 3? 3 maroon food boxes specially made by Ruifeng restaurant were neatly arranged at the innermost end of the elevator. The original wood material and the 3-story pavilion's design were exactly the same as the Eastern classical artwork. Director Xia could not help but turn his head and look at young Master He, who was still smiling and watching the show. Could it be that Shi Wei specifically ordered 3 portions to entertain the guests? This was drinking tea, not feeding pigs. So, the other 2 were probably bought by the young couple themselves to give to their idols? The price at Ruifeng restaurant was not low. Which one is Sister Wei's? Manager Xia had no choice but to ask. Luonan shrugged. He was too lazy to even open his mouth. He had to admit that he was partly responsible for the difficulty of moving the takeout boxes. After all, in addition to what Shi Wei's assistant had ordered, there was also Cat Eye's so-called flowing stone set. In order to show filial respect to his older sister and complete the task of visiting the set, he had bought another set. 2 sets of tea set, desserts, food box, and tea set cost more than 10,000 yuan. Without a doubt, this was the impulsive spending of a nouveau riche after his wallet was full. Director Xia did not care about the nouveau riche. He had seen many crazy fans who would throw money away for their idols. Luonan and the others were not the craziest. He just felt awkward. If this couple didn't cooperate and he took the wrong food, it would be hard for him to avoid being punished by Shi Wei. Plus, he did not forget that Shi Wei's lover was right behind him. Director Xia was a bit anxious. He saw that the security guards had already approached, so his voice grew louder. The tea and snacks were definitely ordered by Sister Wei. You 2 are going to forcefully steal them? 2 people come. Drag them out first. As he spoke, Director Xia moved back to give the security guards room to act. At the same time, he pondered whether or not he should contact Assistant Meng, who was by Shi Wei's side, and ask her about the details of the tea and snacks order. Young Master He clicked his tongue just as he exited the elevator. It's pretty ugly now that it's developed to the point of pulling and pulling. Director Xia hurriedly turned around. Young Master He, don't worry. We absolutely won't delay you and Sister Wei from drinking your morning tea. Hey you guys. Don't kick over the innermost food boxes. It was rare for him to take care of both sides and still be able to think clearly without a hint of chaos. And for the sake of expressing his importance, he drilled back into the elevator after the security guards restrained Luonan and Yuqin. He bent over to pick up the 3 custom-made food boxes. Young Master He's laughter came from behind him. He could hear that he was quite delighted. This proves one thing. People must live magnanimously. They must live properly. Otherwise, if you play the pig, you will fall into the dung pit. If you act cool, you will be struck by lightning. Director Xia hated himself for touching the food boxes. He bent over, unable to turn around and send out a sincere smile. But his mouth did not fall behind. He praised loudly, "Young master, his words are truly incisive." He had just lifted the food box in the middle when a certain chain of logic in the depths of his brain suddenly snapped. He was unable to connect the cause and effect no matter what. Young master, his voice continued to enter his ears. "That's right. It's this expression. Wait for me to record it and save it as evidence. Boss Luo, you chased stars behind my sister's back and hooked up with little girls. This is retribution. You must be bored." The cold and indifferent voice came from the young bastard. Director Xia ignored this sentence. The information in front of him really made him a bit dumbfounded. "Sister? What sister?" Director Xia maintained his bent posture and froze on the spot. However, his thoughts were like a kite that had lost its string. It spun crazily in the vortex and could not find its direction at all. In this chaotic state, Director Xia vaguely knew that the security guard he had called had retreated. Young master, his bodyguards and followers, who had exited the elevator earlier, had rushed in again. Due to the existence of the food box, the place to step was relatively tight. People were squeezed and people were pushed against each other. Director Xia bent over, so the area he occupied was a little large. Someone knocked on his spine twice. It was young master He. "Stand up straight. Don't get in the way." "Oh my God, I'm going to collapse." Director Xia did not know how his spine, which was as soft as noodles, was supported. When he straightened his body, he saw young master He smiling as he put his arm around the shoulder of the bastard fan. The latter was pushing him away with a cold expression. Young master He was not annoyed at all. On the contrary, he laughed out loud. Don't mind me. I'm flattered that you brought tea and snacks for our Xiaowei. In the future, I will absolutely not create any obstruction between you and my sister. That's good enough, right?" Such intimate words and body language made Director Xia's face turn into a bewitching neon rainbow in the red light district. It was ever-changing. In the end, it was completely cut off and turned into a patch of black ash. When things reached an extreme, they would move in the opposite direction. At this moment, years of social instincts dominated everything. Director Xia's face suddenly burst into a smile. Sorry. This. His instincts were still flawed. Director Xia's mind suddenly went blank. He had forgotten the surname of this most important person. Donglu kindly reminded him, "Call him Boss Luo. Don't look at his tender face. He's a ruthless character who can order my sister around. Hey, stop squeezing. Otherwise, if only one of us goes down, we won't be able to live." In an instant, almost everyone's gaze fell on Director Xia's face. I don't want to live. Chapter 458. Donglu, temporarily unemployed, a vagrant. The elevator went up quickly. Young master He introduced himself. He looked humorous, friendly and elegant. It was as if the scene of him hugging his shoulders and laughing strangely was all a dream. "Hello, young master He." Yuqin extended her hand and lightly shook Donglu's hand. Luo Nan gave a simple introduction according to etiquette. Yuqin. Classmate. Actually, the relationship was a bit more complicated, but Luo Nan was disinclined to explain it to Donglu. "Hello, classmate. You have unlimited possibilities." Donglu recovered his mischievous demeanor. However, he stopped there and didn't continue teasing. Didn't he step forward just now to control the situation? He absolutely couldn't let the dangerous person in front of him fly into a rage out of humiliation. Since they had appeared here, there was a high chance that they would continue to cross paths. He was here to amuse himself. There was no need for him to put himself in danger. Oh, and don't clash with the target. At this time, Yuqin's bracelet vibrated. It was Baiyu and the others who were anxiously waiting at the elevator making a phone call. Yuqin didn't mention the conflict downstairs. She simply said a few words and hung up. Donglu swept his eyes over the rapidly changing numbers on the panel. He said with a smile, "Many thanks, old bro. You personally brought the takeout. This is a great favor. I'll get Shiwei to toast you a few more cups later. If she has any good friends, I'll introduce them to you first." Luo Nan responded in a lukewarm tone, "It was just in passing. No need to be polite." Though Luo Nan said this, he still gave Donglu a few more glances. After all, it was gossip about an A-list celebrity. He had just read it with Baiyu. Even if Shiwei was an A-lister, she would not have the guts to cheat in front of young master Kong Tianhe. This was probably the legendary, changing the scene. The atmosphere in the elevator became a lot more natural. He Donglu pointed at the food boxes on the floor and said with a smile, "Then old bro, who are you visiting? Look at this amount, TSK, isn't this too much of a philanthropist? I, your brother, am willing to admit defeat. Luonan didn't beat around the bush. My cousin's band is performing tonight. There are also a few new friends I've made." Donglu was very surprised. "Ah, then I really have to support you. Her band is Shanxi. She just signed a contract with Ming Tang. She's not that famous." Donglu's brows jumped. "Just signed? At this time?" Luonan's gaze was focused. "Is there something wrong? Brother, it seems like your sensitivity is not high enough. Don't you know which company owns Ming Tang culture?" Donglu didn't intentionally leave him hanging. He quickly answered his own question. "The Ancient Castle Financial Group, the Blood Flame Order." He purposely lowered his voice when he said the last word, creating a perfect atmosphere. Ding dong. The elevator reached the 56th floor. The atmosphere lightened a bit, but Donglu was able to see Luonan's tightly furrowed brows as he wished. He spread his hands. "So you understand. Speaking of which box is she weighs? I'll just bring it over." "The middle." Luonan responded subconsciously. "Ah, thanks a lot." Speaking of which, Donglu was quite ostentatious. Apart from the old driver bodyguard that Wang Yao had seen in Ocean Sky Cloud City, there were still 5 or 6 attendants. Naturally, there were people taking his place at this time. The elevator door opened and Donglu walked out with a beaming smile. In the next moment, his eyes lit up. Hey, didn't I say that Ming Tang's resources aren't bad? You guys are that long-legged good-looking group? What's your name again?" All the members of BHD were gathered outside the lift. Originally, he was waiting for his family's pastries and snacks. Who would have thought that when the elevator opened, a playboy would come out? They couldn't help but be a bit stupefied. Luckily, the housekeeper, Xuanhuan, was well trained. She counted to 3, then the 3 sisters bowed at the same time with a smile. "Hello, we are BHD." Donglu chuckled. His playboy temperament flared up. He instinctively reached out his hand, wanting to touch the face of Clara, the most good-looking of them all. But his hand was halfway there when he felt an inexplicable chill on his back. He cursed inwardly and could only lift it up. He tidied his own hair and turned around. "There are quite a few people here in Ming Tang that I like. I suddenly have an idea. Brother, let's join hands. We can talk about the capital operation. I'll give you 20% of the shares. You just need to help me grasp the timing and see when it's good to strike the bottom." Luonan stared at him. "Tianbang is a member of your military. He's even in the Coastal Defense Force. Tianbang isn't that vulgar. As for me, my position in the He family isn't that high. You, on the other hand, can ask my sister and your secretary about the progress." Donglu extended his hands and bumped fists. "Our appetites aren't that big. Even if they beat our brains out, it won't hinder us from picking up girls. Earning money." Luonan shut his mouth and didn't say anything. He didn't feel like continuing this topic. Donglu shrugged his shoulders and turned around very straightforwardly. "Thank you again. Come back and have some tea later." At that moment he led a group of bodyguards and followers and swaggered away. Luonan stared at Luonan's back. He felt that Luonan seemed to be close to him, but Luonan's mouth was full of lies. Luonan was filled with dissatisfaction towards Luonan. This was very normal. With Donglu's family background, there was absolutely no need for him to stick his face to an ability user. Not to mention that night at Ocean Sky Cloud City, when this person was being domineering, when he was forcefully suppressed by He Yuan. Kitty? Any man would feel aggrieved after such an experience. Wouldn't it be a joke if they became the worst friend the second time they met? Donglu seemed to have noticed Luonan's line of sight. He turned his head and waved at Luonan before he turned the corner. His smile was brilliant. After entering the passageway corridor, Donglu's smile didn't change. He pressed the secret communication button on his wristband to talk to the bodyguard beside him. "Speaking of which, how about me and that kid's older sister go for a while? It should be easy to play rock and roll." "What's this called?" "Courtesy demands reciprocity. Don't you learn this from my sister?" The bodyguard didn't want to get involved in this topic, but out of professional considerations he still responded. Right now he has a security team by his side. "We have people in there." "Holy crap. Old C, when did you become sinister?" Luonan has always been a target that the military has been trying to control. It was Miss Een who arranged for people to be placed there. It was for protection and for precaution. Donglu said unhappily, I know that this fellow is very dangerous. But can't you be a bit more straightforward with your words? The bodyguard, Old C, organized his words before saying, Luonan in the inner world has the highest evaluation of AB+. In the military's evaluation he has an A, and in the judgment of the Xia city government he has a red, meaning that he is extremely dangerous. Hold on. Donglu interrupted Old C's words. He was a bit annoyed. The military and the government's judgments are out? When did this happen? Why are they still being raised? Just last week. Old C explained seriously, in terms of individual combat strength, Luonan's performance isn't all that outstanding. There are plenty of people in this world who can suppress him. But the key problem lies in the fact that he relies on tools like the Flying Devil Ray. He is an infrasonic array that can move at will. His destructive power towards civilians and conventional troops is comparable to that of extraordinaries. In addition to his unfathomable and profound level of mental senses and his young and emotional mental state, his degree of threat within Xia City and its surrounding regions has nothing to do with distance, interpersonal relationships or division of power. Therefore, I suggest that young master he should maintain a distance with him in front of and behind of people. Old C wanted to say distance with this last sentence, but he felt that it was ambiguous. He hesitated for a moment before changing his words. Chapter 459. Discretion? Old C's words had more or less bruised Donglu's self-esteem. He grinned. Isn't he relying on that devil ray? How about this? I'll buy it and take it home to steam and braise it. Of course these were words spoken out of anger. However, Old C's reply gave him another blow. The Xia City branch has already purchased that Flying Devil Ray last week. It's just that it's being nurtured there. This is an important reason why the city government and the general staff have updated their judgment. Motherf asterisk cur. Leaving it there is disgusting? Donglu sucked in a breath of cold air. He knew very well that the Xia City branch was fishing in this manner. They were fishing specifically for big fish like him, who harbored evil intentions. As for purchasing it in advance, it was even more reasonable. Of course the Xia City branch was happy to see a threatening and intimidating existence comparable to an extraordinary. Especially since Luonan was still so young, easy to control and easy to train. This favor was enough to make the kid shed tears of gratitude for several years. Oh, looking at the time, it just so happens to be after Tianbang's torment. Humph, using an A-rank dangerous individual to offset the impact of the incident and return to the old balance of power. Donglu curled his lips. Fully joining the special power of the ability user organization, maintaining the dynamic balance between the military and the capital power, and allowing the entire society to maintain its upward force like a bamboo dragonfly. Isn't this the ideal state of the extraordinary era that my sister wishes for? If she wants to do politics, then what is she doing outside? No matter what her background is, she is now surnamed He. She is of the blood of the He family. As long as she makes up her mind, she will fight her way through the military. Perhaps the Air Force will be hers in the future. It's better than letting someone else take over. Old C spoke softly, using the extraordinary as the handle, using the military and the capital power as the rotor. Even though the power is meager, it is enough to allow civilization to rise in the sea of stars and stand alone in the universe. What did you say? Donglu didn't hear it too clearly. Old C shook his head, returning to the bodyguard's usual silence. Donglu had already arrived at the door of the suite. He pressed the doorbell, but then he thought of something. Everyone says that kid's sensing ability is super strong. At this distance, it's most likely possible. Fuck. The door to the suite opened. Donglu had a belly full of anger. He directly bypassed Assistant Meng and went inside. Shiwei was bored to death in the living room. When she saw Donglu suddenly appear, she couldn't help but burst into a pleasantly surprised smile. Next, she lightly hugged him with Western etiquette. Donglu became more and more worried when he saw the ignorant appearances of this group of people. He was truly worried that this group of people would speak without restraint once they left the door. They would spill everything about that matter. If some unforeseen event were to happen, then he could forget about raising his head in the circle of Xia City in the future. Old C, I'll stay at Shiwei's place for a while. I'll give you a vacation. Bring them downstairs. Get some exercise. Young Master He. You don't need to worry about safety. With a certain someone here, if something were to happen to me, would he still have the face to see my sister? Donglu had really gone all out. He had to hide that matter no matter what. He then sent a text message to Old C, teaching him how to explain things to his attendants. Just like this, aside from Hidonglu, the group of people came in majestically. They left with their heads and faces covered in dirt. They were all baffled. They turned out of the passageway and just happened to bump into Luonan and the long-legged good-looking guy. They were carrying food containers and were just entering room 5621. Normally, the group of attendants would certainly say a few flowery words, but right now, they were in no mood at all. Don't forget that Old C was still watching silently from the side. Boss Luo, who made Hidonglu look at him in a different light, was right in front of him. They were able to be Hidonglu's long-term attendants. At the very least, they had the eyesight to keep their mouths shut and speak less. This was the best choice they could make. Old C nodded toward Luonan in greeting. The attendants copied him one after another, and the two groups brushed shoulders. Who are these people? Baiyu had question marks on her head. She saw them come out from the sealed passageway, and behind them was the only luxurious suite on this floor. Her eyes were filled with sparks of gossip. She turned her head and saw that Luonan was deep in thought. He didn't respond, so she turned her gaze to her best friend. Xianxia, you just came up with them? Yu Qin's elegant eyebrows furrowed slightly. She bit her lower lip, unwittingly biting it until it turned white. If she didn't do this, she wouldn't be able to suppress the trembling that suddenly erupted within her body. The source of the stimulation wasn't Hidonglu. It was Luonan who was beside her. Her sensitivity in this area far surpassed everyone else present. She was able to more or less guess the answer from the limited information such as Hidonglu's surname, the military, and so on. Kongtianhe? Only now did she discover that her evaluation of Luonan's status had actually increased. It was raised to a nearly untouchable level. This made her a bit at a loss as to what to do. Therefore, she didn't hear Baiyu's question at all. She just walked straight in. Xuanhuan and Clara did the same. Baiyu still couldn't get an answer. She couldn't help but pat Luonan's arm. Why are you all so mysterious? Boss Luo, who in the world was that guy? He had a cheeky smile on his face and he seemed to be Sister Weiwei's boyfriend. Luonan could only chuckle when he saw her expectant gaze, ready to receive some gossip at any time. He carried the two flowing stone-set food boxes into the room, but he had second thoughts. It wasn't good to leave these refreshments for too long. He should go take a look at Emoya's place. He turned around and was about to leave, but Baiyu had already grabbed the food boxes like a lackey. Boss, Bai Xiaoyu is here to serve you. I don't need you. Luonan wanted to take the food boxes from Baiyu's hands, but this little girl nimbly dodged to the side. She rammed through the door first. Clearly, he wouldn't be able to get a reply from the food boxes if he didn't bring out a sufficient amount of gossip. Cat Eyes, who hadn't left the room this entire time, chuckled twice. But she didn't say anything that would make Luonan feel even more embarrassed for the sake of the expensive flowing stone set. Luonan shook his head and left the room. Baiyu stood outside with her head held high and her chest puffed out. She assumed the posture of an orderly soldier. Give it to me. Baiyu put the food boxes behind her back. She looked like she was dying. I just wanted to ask and satisfy my curiosity. The identity of Sister Weiwei's boyfriend is a huge piece of gossip. Don't worry. I absolutely won't post it on the internet. So if I don't mess around this time, you'll turn around and post it on the internet? Luonan discovered that he had underestimated Baiyu's gossipy nature. He found it harder and harder to spit it out. Just as he was about to say something, the door to room 5621 opened. Yu Qin stood at the door and spoke softly, Boss, do you need help? Don't tell me you can help hold Baiyu down? Luonan waved his hand. Go rest. Yu Qin didn't say much. Her gaze lingered on Luonan's face for a moment. Then she bowed and retreated behind the door, gently closing it. Baiyu finally saw the subtlety of the relationship between the two when she saw this scene. Xianxia has such an arrogant temperament. Why is she so docile and obedient to you? What I mean is... Luonan was pondering over how to deal with this little gossip bug when he sensed something. Manager Xia, whose face could emit neon lights, had already come up in the elevator. She was headed for Shiwei, but she saw Luonan and Baiyu messing around here when she turned the corner. Clearly she jumped in fright. She hid on the other side of the corner, sneakily observing. Luonan's thoughts spun in succession. He combined this with Hidonglu's strange behavior and couldn't help but have a few more thoughts. He looked at Baiyu. The words that came out of his mouth had a subtle change. It's because of her family's company. This was an unexpected answer. Baiyu couldn't understand it at all. Luonan revealed the truth of the matter. Her brother stole a woman and offended me. He's afraid that the company will go bankrupt, so... Are you serious? Why, you seem to be listening to a novel. Luonan shrugged. In any case, Yu Jing isn't a smart person, right? Luonan felt that it was very interesting to see Bai Yu's adorable expression. He suddenly had an impulse and reached out to pat her cheek. Bai Yu stood there stupidly. Her eyes swiveled a few times before she suddenly cried out, "Manager Xia." Her voice lingered in the air as she slammed into the door with the food box in hand. She was like a scurrying little rabbit. Bai Yu immediately replied, "Where is Boss Luo?" Face the wall and reflect on your mistakes. After that there was nothing else. Bai Yu stared blankly at the message for quite some time. In the end, her body felt weak as she leaned her head against the door. She was extremely depressed. See, my reaction just now was too extreme. Why would I run? Almost at the same time, Manager Xia wanted to cry too. Why did I overreact like that? He stuck close to the base of the wall. Otherwise he wouldn't be able to stand steadily. The smile on his face had long stiffened, but he didn't dare to change. The child in front of him looked to be 15 or 16 years old. He wasn't as tall as him and he didn't have a fierce expression on his face. On the contrary, he looked a little wooden. Yet he felt an unreasonable amount of pressure. Even if he was up against the big boss of Mingtang culture, he wouldn't be so indecisive. It was Clara's passing by that gave him a chance to catch his breath. Finally, his brain started to work. It was obvious that Boss Luo had a good relationship with the BHD group. Was she his target? According to his many years of experience, when it came to relationships between men and women, a teenager would be confused, thirsty and possessive. Hence, they would be relatively complicated. Apart from those who matured early, most teenagers would be impulsive and wouldn't have a particularly heavy taste. But, to be involved in multiple targets at the same time, if he wasn't a veteran, who else could be? But he didn't look like one. Was he good at disguising himself? The type that liked to play around with people's feelings? But, the way he flirted with her wasn't like that at all. Manager Xia felt that he was really in a dilemma. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that, with his usual style of doing things, he would be so blind as to offend the son-in-law of Kong Tianhe. Of course, this was just a description. No matter what, Boss Luo was definitely the kind of person he couldn't afford to offend. Since he had done something stupid, he had to make up for it. What could he use to make up for it? He could only use his old profession. As a department manager of an entertainment company, he had many resources that ordinary people were envious of. But compared to a wealthy family like Kong Tianhe, it was a joke. The other party used him for fun. Otherwise, with just a thought, they could turn him into ashes with just a puff of air. Fun was the key word in everything. The best resource he had was none other than the banquet that was going to be organized soon. It was a carnival created by the libertines in the entertainment circle. There were some mysterious elements in it, and it had always been one of the most high-end symbols in the relevant circles. If Boss Luo liked this kind of thing, it would be ideal to do him a favor at little cost. But he still had some rationality left in him. Manager Xia's operation appeared to be very complicated, and his authority requirements were extremely high. There were a few times where he even had to test his breathing, heartbeat, and so on. It seemed that he was trying to shield himself from abnormal states such as being under duress. Sweat dripped from Manager Xia's forehead. He wanted to explain, but he couldn't find an entry point for the time being. Right when he was about to die, he suddenly saw Boss Luo turn his head and frown. "Whose room is room 5605? What? Oh, please wait a moment. I'll check." Manager Xia had a bitter expression on his face. He was just about to switch to the verification interface when a light suddenly flashed in his mind. The relevant memories came back. Lan Lin. It's Lan Lin. The high-quality idol that the company has nurtured for the past 2 years. High-quality idol? Right now, Luonan's mental senses had already covered room 5605. He saw this high-quality idol using his skillful and masterful techniques that could be used as teaching material to tease Clara, who had just delivered his takeout. If it wasn't for his companion coming out from the cubicle, Luonan would probably be in room 5605, reenacting the teaching video from room 5627. Not even an hour had passed and the male lead hadn't changed, but the female lead had changed. Moreover, the quality was top-notch. Luonan admired him. Your company is really capable of producing people. Luonan was really worried about MOY's prospects after signing with Mingtang culture. Even though the rumors said that all the entertainment companies under the heavens were black-hearted, the feeling of seeing it with one's own eyes was always different. 2 seconds later, Clara escaped from room 5605 in a sorry state. However, the blush on her cheeks proved that she had indeed been teased. This was even more conspicuous on her milky white skin. She was distracted the entire way. She actually forgot that Manager Xia was blocking her way. Only when she reached the middle of the corridor did she see that there was no longer a large food container. She was truly at a loss on what to do. Luckily, Clara's mental fortitude was a bit stronger than Bayu's. She only froze for half a second before revealing a perfect, sweet smile. She instinctively flipped her blonde hair and greeted Luo Nan with her best female charm. She covered herself by sticking to the wall and slipping away. Luo Nan watched her leave. He was deep in thought. New evidence obtained. Manager Xia secretly clenched her fists. There was no need to mention the female companion who had delivered the takeout with her. First there was Bayu. Now there was Clara. This boss Luo had given her an extraordinary amount of attention. Moreover, he had done it very clearly. How did this disguised personality's acting suddenly become so bad? Chapter 461. Manager Xia fell deeper and deeper into the trap of his own logic, but he felt the entire world brighten up. In his days, he actually felt a sense of accomplishment of grasping the pearl of wisdom. He even took the initiative to probe. Boss Luo, are you familiar with the BHD group? I like them quite a bit. Luo Nan had learned these words from Hidong Lu. He spoke very casually, but Manager Xia was moved to tears. He had finally found a seemingly reliable entry point. With a topic of conversation and a familiar field, Manager Xia's breathing and heartbeat gradually calmed down. At the same time, he began to do his best. Although this girl group is a bit more experimental in nature, they actually have a lot of potential. Their singing, dancing, and appearance are top-notch among the few batches of people the company has nurtured. The rarest thing is that they have quite a bit of character. They aren't simply selling their public personas. They don't have any particular weaknesses aside from their small number. If they have a character like Boss Luo supporting them in the future, it would be hard for them not to become famous. Luo Nan's gaze returned to Manager Xia's face. He felt like he was looking at a brothel keeper with a silver tongue. Manager Xia responded with a humble smile. Or should he say that everything went smoothly? Once he found the right path, even the verification that he couldn't get through would be no problem. Manager Xia let out a breath of relief, but he raised his mind. This was a gamble. He struggled a few times in his mind, but he finally gritted his teeth and got to the point. Boss Luo, I had eyes but failed to recognize MT Tai. You can scold me if you want. Speaking of which, my position is low and my eye sockets are shallow. I nearly missed out on a character like you. You are a magnanimous person. You will certainly give me a chance to make up for it. Luo Nan looked at him coldly, not saying a word. Manager Xia summoned up what little courage he had left. He raised his left hand, doing his best to stop it from trembling. A virtual screen lit up, displaying the words invitation privileges. This privilege identification code is an entrance ticket to an event. I know that it's easy for Boss Luo to go to this sort of place, but the channels are different. The resources you enjoy are different as well. Luo Nan didn't immediately take it. He just responded absent-mindedly, is this the one Hidong Lu wants to torment? It had to be said that torment was an excellent word. Manager Xia nodded incessantly. Luo Nan chuckled, your resources are just these before your eyes. I know that BHD is led by Haijing. Of course there's also Mountain Creek. Manager Xia was a bit surprised. Boss Luo knows Mountain Creek? Yeah, the lead singer and drummer are impressive. The lead singer Emoya and the drummer Shui Yi were two great beauties. Moreover, they were the domineering type. They were not old, but they were quite philanthropic. Manager Xia didn't care about anything else. He made promises and the like. No problem at all. Really? Haijing is very protective of xianxia, right? You know that too? Manager Xia was really excited. To tell you the truth, there will be a major change in the company in the near future. Whether or not Haijing can keep its rice bowl is still uncertain. Halfway through his sentence, his heart suddenly stopped. Wait, what am I saying? This Boss Luo is obviously related to Haijing. He is most likely an acquaintance. Am I crazy? Luo Nan's voice entered her ears during her moment of panic and bewilderment. Is Mrs. Halder really going to withdraw completely? When these words entered his ears, Manager Xia shuddered again. Not only did this Boss Luo know about the financial group behind Mingtang culture, he even called Madame Halder by her name. It must be known that he was a mid-level employee of a subsidiary company. It was only by chance that he found out about the true background of the financial group and the name of the true big boss. Even if Madame Halder's influence in Xia City was like a faded flower, knowing was knowing and her attitude was still this casual, this was F***king level. Manager Xia's entire body was trembling. Excitement and fear coexisted. Under the surging emotions, the worries that had just leaped out, as well as the thoughts and consciousness that he couldn't figure out, were all drowned out. His thoughts grew more and more fuzzy. He really wanted to have a good chat with Boss Luo. Unfortunately, this sort of matter wasn't something he could comment on. Right now he could only smile foolishly. Luo Nan scanned the words on the virtual screen once more. Finally he raised his hand. Manager Xia was instantly struck with happiness when she saw this action. She wanted to move her hand over, but her arm was stiff. She could only use her other hand to support herself and carefully stick her wristbands together. Half a second later, the screen of Luo Nan's wristband lit up, revealing a classic DNA double helix structure diagram. Soon, the double helix structure scattered into thousands of meaningless numbers, piecing back together to form a disc-shaped diagram. 3 seconds later it faded away. Manager Xia stared fixedly at the screen of Luo Nan's wristband. She let out a long sigh of relief when she saw the garbled diagram appear. She subconsciously groaned, then laughed in spite of herself. It's past. It's past. Luo Nan's face was expressionless the entire time, but his ears jumped a few times. The hexa-ear hidden deep within his ear canal transmitted a message the moment the screen of his wristband lit up. It was the intelligent voice of the psychic wave network. Serial number 5357, it has been detected that there is an external reading operation on your social privileges record. It was a demon that specialized in peeking at the minds of others. Its incomparably powerful instincts were enough for it to do many inconceivable things. In comparison, even though Luo Nan had gone through a period of study and grasped some basic knowledge of the mental side, what he could do was very limited. However, Manager Xia was an ordinary person. His abilities were overflowing, right? Right now, Manager Xia was in a bit of a daze. He walked in the hallway swaying back and forth. He bumped into a few people who greeted him along the way, but they were at a loss. His mental state was quite bad. The mental attack just now interfered with the material plane. It squeezed the outer medial temporal lobe of the hippocampus, and part of the cortex. There shouldn't be any problems with the operation. Papercut said that this method can destroy the target's short-term memory. Could it be that the attack process was too intense and the aftermath damaged the hippocampus? Maybe I should have used interference from the beginning, blocking the nerve signals. Luo Nan slowly pondered over Manager Xia's current state in conjunction with his life sketch. His goal was very simple. He wanted to obtain more information from this person while preventing others from discovering anything strange, exposing his existence and inclination. Right now, the ones who were more likely to obstruct his goal were undoubtedly He Donglu and his group. Since they were all in this building, Luo Nan reluctantly monitored them for a period of time. Just like right now. The bodyguard Old C, whom he had met once before, had returned. According to his current pace, he could just meet Manager Xia face to face. Manager Xia was currently in a dazed mental state. How could he hide from others? Turn a corner. Luo Nan's consciousness probed through the window, giving Manager Xia a new stimulation. Manager Xia was still muddle-headed. He just subconsciously moved his legs, took 2 quick steps and circled around the corner. The elevator door opened and Old C walked out. The long corridor was completely empty. He didn't detect anything out of the ordinary. He hurried to the room where He Donglu was residing. On the way, Old C passed by a corner that a certain someone had taken a step ahead of him. It was just that he didn't notice it. Manager Xia stood blankly behind the soundproof door in the corner, facing the empty room. How did I get here? Manager Xia blinked his eyes. He just felt dizzy as if he had just experienced a nightmare. That's right. He really did experience a nightmare in the elevator. Hey, what happened next? It seemed like it was resolved? Room 5621. Luo Nan's head was still lowered as he looked at his open palm. His naturally slightly curled 5 fingers gently gathered the air, but he seemed to be able to feel some sort of marvelous tension. It was like he was gathering an incorporeal soul. The information that came from Manager Xia's life sketch was scattered and subtle. It involved consciousness, memories, emotions, and many other most precise and complex functions. And all of this was in the palm of his hand, allowing him to fiddle with it. You're tuning into the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.